Give us a little history of the people. These are Canadian Inuit people, and you said they live in other areas of the world, 2 other areas.
Correct. Once again, they live in Greenland, and they live in Alaska. In Alaska, they're called Inupiat and Inupik, and in Greenland, I believe they use the word Inuit, as they do in Nunavut, which is the Canadian portion of where the Inuit live in Canada. They also live in Quebec, in Canada, Upper Quebec, Northern Quebec. Their history, originally they were called Eskimos, which to the Inuit in Canada, that is a derogatory name. Inuit, to my knowledge, means raw meat eaters, and they consider that derogatory, whereas the Alaskan Inuit do not mind being called Eskimo. Also, it's not considered derogatory to them. They don't speak quite the same language. It's different dialects, and sometimes they would have difficulty from Alaska to Canada or Greenland communicating.
Their language is not written down. It's orally transmitted over the years.
Completely orally transmitted.
And is their history, I mean, their legends and stories are handed down by word of mouth. You spent a wonderful July there, and tell us a little bit about that visit. How did they live? How did you live? How different is it from where we are? You said there are no trees where they live.
There are no trees. It is right by the Arctic Circle, but it is beautiful because it's very blue and very white, and there's nothing really to break the horizon except for rock. And the rock, while it's gray, it's very smooth. I mean, there are craggy areas, but you go over a ridge, and then you come to a valley, and it's completely, this was in July, so the beautiful Arctic flowers were coming out. So it was very green, very small, mossy grasses, and lakes and wildlife in the lakes. And then you'd go up another ridge, a rocky ridge, and you'd find another lake with beautiful mosses, just gorgeous greens and pinks and yellows. It was just magnificent.
It had to be magnificent. These are people who have been nomadic and still live that way, is that right?
Absolutely, the traditionalists especially. When I say traditionalists, I mean those that follow the old ways. And that is an issue in their culture right now, that they do have satellite feeds of everything that we see on our TVs. So the younger culture, we stayed one night in Nuna's house in his grandson's room, and he had an Eminem poster on the wall, and he had all the latest albums, and he was dressed in very baggy jeans, and basically didn't look any different than a kid going to Nutrier. And that's a big struggle up there, because the younger kids desperately want our culture, the Southern culture to some degree. And for the old-timers, for the traditionalists, they have a big struggle getting some of the younger people to continue wanting to hunt, wanting to wear traditional clothing, wanting to learn how to carve. Nuna teaches kids how to carve, and that's the only the way they will learn. He's taught his 4 natural children. They were all top carvers in their own right. There are 2 surviving children. 2 of them have died, which is another issue up in that area, that life is dangerous.
How did they die?
The older one who died about 6 years ago, his name was Jutani, and this is a typical way of dying. They have to quarry stone for their carvings. It's about a 7-hour boat ride from Cape Dorset, and they go there usually 2 or 3 times in the late summer, and they really didn't, at least at that time, have very good shoring up methods for the caves the way they were carving. And Jutani, to my understanding, was in the bottom of this quarry. Nuna was on a middle level, and I believe Peter was on top, and the whole thing gave in. Jutani was killed, Jutani was killed, Nuna was pretty badly injured and had some damage to his left or right shoulder. Peter was fine. He had while we were there, his 5-year-old daughter was with us, who, of course, he really did not know, from what I understand. She was born after he died. This is Jutani's daughter. Her name is Elizabeth. She's being raised by her mother and grandmother. His other son, Josephine, or Joe Parr, he was killed December 18th, 2003 in a snowmobile accident, which is another way that a lot of them die. Couple of major carvers died over the last winter going on their snowmobiles, cracking through the snow or the ice, and then either drowning or hypothermia. Maybe their bodies would be found, maybe they would not.
So life is tough.
Life is tough, even today with all the modern conveniences that they have.